MBA Research and Curriculum Center is proud to present this video series on ethical principles, brought to you by the Daniels Fund Ethics Initiative. You can find timestamps, links, and more in the video description box below. Subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our content. This video will cover the third ethical principle of accountability. First, let's explore our ethics dictionary. Accountability is defined as accepting responsibility for all decisions and being liable for your actions. It comes from the Old French root word account, which is the literal translation of answerable. Let's look at some words that are alike and different. First are synonyms, or words that are very close in meaning. Some synonyms of accountability are responsibility, liability, duty, and invaluable. Next are antonyms, or words that are opposite in meaning. Some antonyms of accountability are exemption, unreliable, and doubtfulness. American First Lady and activist Eleanor Roosevelt said, "In the long run, we shape our lives and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die, and the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility." Building blocks are the traits that a person needs to have in order to act ethically. Each ethical principle has its own set of traits. What building blocks are associated with this principle? Accountability's first building block is responsibility. Responsibility means fulfilling your obligations in a dependable, reliable manner. You might hear someone say, "I bit off more than I could chew," meaning they took on more responsibilities than they were prepared to handle. Let's look at an example. Say you offer to pick up a Sunday shift for one of your coworkers, even though you usually go see a movie with your friends on Sundays. A responsible person would keep their word and work that shift, even if it means telling their friends that they can't hang out with them. An irresponsible person would break their word and let their coworker get in trouble for missing work. Accountability's second building block is courage. Courage is a strength of spirit that helps you stand up under pressure and face fear with self-confidence. You might hear someone say, "I put on a brave front," meaning they made themselves seem confident and courageous while in public. Let's look at an example. You are walking down the hallway at school when you see one of your friends getting harassed by a bully. A courageous person would be able to stand up for their friend, while a person who lacks courage would walk by without intervening. How do the building blocks of accountability work together? An accountable person takes ownership of all their decisions and actions, both good and bad. Without courage, you'd never be able to accept responsibility when you make a mistake or do the wrong thing. Let's look at an example. Joe is babysitting his cousins for the weekend while his aunt and uncle are away. While he is busy checking his phone, one of his cousins falls down and scrapes their elbow. Joe can show responsibility by using a first aid kit on the wound, and he can show courage by immediately telling his aunt and uncle about the accident. When you combine responsibility with courage, you'll become a person who keeps their word, accepts the consequences of their actions, and isn't afraid to admit when they were wrong. In other words, you'll have accountability. We can learn more about the consequences of behaving without ethical principles from events in the past and present. The following story is just one example.
In Albuquerque, New Mexico, an elderly woman was severely burned when she spilled a cup of McDonald's coffee in her lap.
An 81-year-old woman has been awarded $2.9 million after she sued McDonald's, claiming their coffee was too hot.
Stella Liebeck spilled just 8 ounces of coffee, but she attracted a flood of attention. The jury's awards set off a media frenzy and became a rallying cry for those who believed our legal system had run amok.
I think it's absurd.
But as her story cycled through newspaper headlines, talk show storylines, and late-night punchlines, one thing was lost: the facts.
This story is the most widely misunderstood story in America.
Let's examine the timeline of events. Between 1982 and 1992, McDonald's company policy is to serve coffee at 190 degrees Fahrenheit, which is almost boiling. Over 700 people receive burns from McDonald's coffee, including infants and children. Many of these burn cases are severe. In February 1992, retired grandmother Stella Liebeck buys breakfast at McDonald's and parks in the parking lot. She tries to remove the coffee cup lid to add sugar, but spills the hot coffee on herself. The coffee is so hot that it causes severe third-degree burns to Stella's lap. She requires skin grafts and nursing care, and is partially disabled for 2 years. During the period when Stella is disabled, from 1992 to 1994, her family asks McDonald's to cover $20,000 of medical expenses and related costs. McDonald's counters with an offer of only $800. Stella and her family decide to sue McDonald's, but the media makes fun of her case. Stella's case is heard in August of 1994, and the jury decides that McDonald's is 80% at fault for serving its coffee at unsafe temperatures. They award her with a settlement of nearly $3 million, which includes the estimated revenue for 2 days of McDonald's coffee sales. McDonald's was held accountable in court for its corporate policy, and ultimately was forced to serve its coffee at safer temperatures. Why does this event illustrate the importance of accountability? Let's take a second look. Stella Liebeck had the courage to sue a major corporation, even though the media made it seem like her claim was frivolous. In the end, she forced McDonald's to take responsibility for their unsafe coffee policy, which made it safer for McDonald's employees and customers to handle their coffee. Why do ethical principles matter in your life? Let's take a look at an example. We've looked at a lot of scenarios where people acted with or without ethical principles. Now, you'll get to decide what to do in an ethical dilemma. Pay attention to the following scenario and think about how you would respond. This is your third summer working at the local pool. This year, your boss has given you a promotion and put you in charge of ordering the snack bar concessions. You've followed your boss's instructions all summer long, only ordering what he says will sell. At the end of the summer, he asks you to use the remaining $200 in the budget to buy food and drinks for the employee farewell party. When you check the concessions budget, you find that it's short $75. When you double check your expenses, you realize that you overpurchased hot dogs earlier in the summer. In the real world, there are many ways you could respond to this problem. However, in this hypothetical scenario, you have 4 choices available to you. 1, you could cover the expense yourself and alter your expense reports to hide your mistake. 2, you could tell your boss about the mistake and offer to cover the missing funds with your next paycheck. 3, you could tell your boss that another employee must have stolen the money. Or 4, you could cover the cost yourself without telling your boss and hope he doesn't notice any discrepancies in the budget. Which choice would you make? Take some time to think about your answer. What choice did you decide to make? Let's explore some of the benefits and drawbacks of each choice. If you picked choice 1, you covered the cost yourself and tried to hide your mistake by altering the expense reports. This is an unethical choice. You lacked the courage to tell your boss, and by covering up your mistake, you are refusing to accept responsibility for it. With this choice, you'd benefit from knowing that there is no record of you making a mistake at work. However, there are other expense records that you don't have access to. What happens if one of the concessions vendors sends a copy of the original bill to your boss? He would definitely know that you made a mistake, and you'd be in a lot of trouble for altering the business records. If you pick choice 2, you owned up to your mistake and offered to cover the missing funds with your next paycheck. This is the ethical choice. You use the building blocks of responsibility and courage to make the right decision. With this choice, you'd benefit from showing your boss that you are an accountable employee. The budget discrepancy would be fixed, and the farewell party would happen as planned. However, your boss might be a little disappointed that you made the mistake in the first place. He might not want to give you concessions responsibilities in the future, but if this was your only mistake over the summer, it probably wouldn't be a big issue. If you pick choice 3, you accused another employee of stealing the missing $75. This is extremely unethical. Not only did you lack the courage and responsibility to hold yourself accountable, you also tried to accuse an innocent person of a crime. With this choice, you'd benefit from placing blame on someone else. They would get in trouble for your mistake, not you. However, accusing someone of a crime they didn't commit is a lot worse than making a mistake handling the concessions budget. You might have to make a statement to the police or your boss, who would investigate and find out what really happened. Your boss and the employee you blamed would both be extremely angry and upset with you. You might even face legal repercussions like fines or community service. If you pick choice 4, you covered the missing funds without telling your boss. This choice isn't ethical, but it's not the worst decision you could have made. Even though you accepted responsibility for your mistake, you did not have the courage to hold yourself accountable to your boss. With this choice, you'd benefit from your boss not knowing you made a mistake with the budget. He's more likely to give you these responsibilities again next year, or even offer you another promotion. However, if your boss looks at the expense reports closely, he would probably realize that $75 were missing before the farewell party. He would have to question you about this discrepancy, and you'd have to decide between lying more or owning up to your mistake. Which choice did you make? Hopefully, seeing the benefits and drawbacks associated with your choice made it easier for you to visualize how ethical principles can impact your future. When you take time to consider any potential benefits and drawbacks, you will be better prepared to make ethical decisions in real life. Wondering how you can become a more ethical person? Here are some things to consider going forward. How can you become a more accountable person? Take a look at these examples. At school, accountable people stand up for what's right and never skip their classes. At home, accountable people complete their chores without needing to be reminded, and they set measurable goals for themselves. While working or volunteering, accountable people solve problems as they arise and stay on task for their entire shift. It's important to take time for self-reflection. First, ask yourself, can you think of a time when you didn't hold yourself accountable for your actions? How did it make you feel? How could you avoid this in the future? Second, consider your environment. How can you encourage those around you to hold themselves accountable for their actions? What would happen if those around you aren't held accountable by others? Thank you for watching. We hope that you enjoyed this deep dive into ethical principles. This video was presented by MBA Research and Curriculum Center on behalf of the Daniels Fund Ethics Initiative. To learn more, please visit mbaresearch.org or click the link in the video description box below.